point where, as a football nation, we are not allowed to play football in our nation. I mean, who could ever have foreseen this? That's the reality. How did we get here? Whose responsibility was shirked to the point where CAF had to shut down our stadia? Whose responsibilities were shirked to that point, right? And how do we get back? How do we get back some semblance of dignity and respect when it comes to football? Not just football, but sports in general. This is an important conversation, all right? And especially at a time when so many things don't seem to work. The one thing that we should not be scratching our heads over is something that we are abundant in talent for, and that is football. All right, so let's figure it out together. We've got some of the best brains in the sport to help us come to grips with this. Winston, who have we got joining us?
So, of course, we have Fentio, Tahir Fentio, editor Joy Sports, here with us. Victor Chutamaklu, also with Joy Sports, and Muftar Nabila, also with Joy Sports. But, of course, we've been joined on the phone by Rosalind Amo, who's a sports journalist and sub-editor of Daily Graphic, and Veronica Komi, also a sports journalist. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us this morning.
Great. And let me start with you, Rosalind Amo, because I was checking your comment on Facebook, and you say that, Numekev, or that's Doji, shouldn't be the only one responsible. You say more people should be held responsible. Others have actually played a role in where we find ourselves today. Who else should be held responsible and accountable for our fate today?
Thank you very much, Winston. And I believe that we have a sector minister. And the sector minister, apart from everything else, has a supervisory role over everything else that has to do with not just the policy, but also the facilities and everything. And over time, we have been talking about the way our facilities have been managed. I mean, we are very careless when it comes to renting it out for other social events. We don't protect those facilities enough. And every now and then, we are giving the warning by CAF that we don't have approved or the standard stadia to use for our international games. And he has superintendent over these things for, at least for the past 1 year. He's been in charge since the second tenure of this government. And so for it to have been like, he is there, and then only the agency minister has been asked to go. I felt that it was not right, because what have you done? What supervisory role did you play to ensure that all the wrongs have been righted, or the issues that have been persistently raised by CAF has been addressed? I don't think that only the National Sports Authority Director General should have gone. The minister should also have some questions to answer.
Now, Rosalind, before I get to Veronica, you say, every time CAF has been warning us. For how long has CAF been warning us about the state of our stadium?
At least, if our memory serves me right, it's been the last 2 years. The reason why we are not able to play our Category 1 games at either the Accra Stadium or Cape Coast, and now we have had to, every now and then, catch up and pretend to be doing some work at the Baba Yara Stadium, and then we get there to go and play. We get to play. But the requirements are clear. What does it take for us to meet those requirements? I don't think that anybody has made any conscious effort to ensure that at least whilst we are able to play at Baba Yara, the other facilities have what it takes to be able to host the high-profile international games. And that is where my concern is, because if you as a minister and you haven't come in to ensure that some of these things are addressed, then why are we still there? This will be the 4th year from 2020 up to this point, 2021 up to this point, and we have not been able to resolve those issues. And embarrassingly, you remember our World Cup qualifier against Nigeria?
Yeah.
And see what happened. That was when the red flags were raised. And we haven't done anything about it. And we are going into another World Cup qualifier, and we are still raising the same issue. So who should be held responsible, Winston?
Let me bring in Veronica at this point. Veronica, so this is something that is, we've known this for the past 3 years, but we are consistently touting our achievement in sports. What have we been doing all this while?
In your intro, I heard you say that a football nation. I hate to be the one to break it to you that we are not a football nation. We haven't been in a very long time. We used to be a powerhouse without a doubt. We no longer are a powerhouse. Because I cannot, for the life of me, reference one football nation, apart from it being rhetoric, that has no standard stadium. I cannot, for the life of me, remember ever reading or seeing this happen in Ghana. This is unprecedented. And every time we say that this is colossal failure on the part of the government and the people of Ghana, we have evidence. We do have evidence because you remember some of us led a few people to stage the Save Ghana football protest in February.
Yes.
When we were articulating some of these things, performances of the team, these are some of the reasons why we kept saying a lot needs to change. We need to have a policy as a nation. We need to have a look in so that we can make a few changes to ensure that football progresses. Because how are you calling yourself a football nation when your league, your Premier League, doesn't even have sponsorship? It hasn't in a very long time. To the extent that a title sponsor, to the extent that when a team wins the league, they get around $30,000. We have been flirting with this band for a long time, or for a while now, because we could say that we have stadia in Sipon, Tamale, Accra, Kumasi, but they don't meet the standard that enables you to play Category A matches. Just the Legon Stadium, a stadium that was about 70% done, to the extent that we spent about $30 million to finish it 2024, and you finish a stadium and you couldn't even make it meet standard, the required standard. Worst of all, only last week you saw the ministry issue a press release saying that they needed a GFA to collaborate with CAF so that they could come in to inspect the Accra Sports Stadium and the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. It was sadly laughable. And I say so because it means two things. Either the ministry is oblivious of the status of our stadium, because every normal football fan knows today that the Accra Sports Stadium has not been in shape in a very long time. As basic as washrooms, it's that basic. The ministry and the sports authority or the sports stadium, it's just a walking distance. Your ministry doesn't know that the facility is so down that it's not just down to the pitch. The Cape Coast Sports Stadium, I'm just saying that politicians, over time, they have no interest in football. They have no interest in sports. When they walk into town, they just hop on the euphoria of the Black Stars, the fact that we do the World Cup every now and then, and they just decide that, okay, they will pump money into the Black Stars, but not for the development of the football. When you listen to the current government, they are happily touting everywhere that they have invested more in infrastructure in sports than any other government. I am sorry, the AstroTurf that they built in communities was just an emotional decision. And why do I say this? Because if you go to the one at Medina or everywhere, if you say that it was just for the community, for recreation and other things, they are charging like 400 cedis for an hour and a half. How many people can afford that? First of all, most of these teams who would have loved to play their games there, the pitches do not meet the standard. So obviously, every now and then when we wake up and we think that to be able to win power or to be able to give a semblance of the fact that we care about football, we just do anything. I like that this has happened to us. We have two things to do, either to go the Mali way, because 2 years ago, Mali found themselves in that hot waters. And today, if you go to Mali or you check the records, the facility that they have built, and that is for a country that has not done the World Cup back-to-back like Ghana has done and gotten so much money. They took advantage of it and changed the narrative. It's either we are interested in developing it or not. And I do believe that we can go the Mali way, or we can still pretend to be ostriches, bury our head in sand, and convince ourselves that we are still a football nation.
Now, Veronica, before I can, your colleagues staged a Save Ghana football demonstration. There discussions at the time they said they were going to engage you? Did you have these discussions and these concerns that you had at the time? What did they tell you they were going to do about them?
You know, what is funny is that we were perceived to be anti-Ghana or anti-football, like my friends like Fentio, Victor, and others. Every time you speak truth to power, the fact that we have to have a look in and make changes, they think you are antagonizing them. And that is the reason why we are here. We did serve Parliament, I'm sure in the next few days, because if I check the records, somewhere yesterday, Parliament had sent a letter yesterday to say that they would want to meet us to engage. The GFA obviously was happy about sending press releases every now and then about all the things they were doing, including the FIFA forward money of 150,000 that they used to buy footballs to share to the clubs, because around that time they needed to let Ghanaians know they were doing well. The minister was smiling in Parliament, claiming that he's going to engage everybody so that stakeholders will push this forward. It is our insincerity. Our insincerity is the reason we are here. I do remember that in one of the President's State of the Nation's address, after our demonstration, he said that he was going to outdoor his football policy. I don't know if he's waiting to outdoor it after power. But you see, it is how we take each other, how insincere we can be. That is the reason we are here. That engagement has not happened. If it happens, I am happy to bear it out with you.
Thank you, Veronica and Roslyn. Please hold on. Let me get in studio and engage Fentio and the guys. But Victor, let me start off with you. Because the more I think about it, the more I get confused. That we've invested huge sums of money, and yet there is nothing to show. In a country where we tout, amounts invested as achievement and not pitches, this is our reality. Today, the much talk about AstroTurf, regional youth centers and everything, rehabilitation or renovation of Accra Sports Stadium, Kumasi Sports Stadium, Babayara Sports Stadium, and Cape Coast, Esipon, Tamale. We spent over $250 million organizing All Africa Games. And post All Africa Games, we still don't have a pitch that meets CAF requirements.
No, we don't.
I don't understand. What's wrong with us?
Oh, it's not all of us. I'm fine. When you say what's wrong with us, it's not all of us.
The country Ghana.
It's not the country Ghana. It's the ruling class.
Okay.
Yeah. What we have is the product of incompetent leadership, right? And for me, when you hear all the sloganeering of "we have the men," no, you don't. What you have are egocentric men who strut around like Einsteins, but in terms of their body of work, it stinks. Where you and I come from, the incompetence is right from the top, from the president himself to the last official. And I'll tell you how. When you look at the people that the president has appointed to run sport, essentially, so for the layman, the sports ministry is government. They run sports. The functioning arm of the sports ministry is the NSA, right? So when you look at the sports ministry, you see policies and stuff that they want to do. When you look at the NSA, you will see the things that they are, you see the execution of those policies and all of that. So the people who run these two entities have to be the best of brains. But because we have dysfunctional political and wicked leadership, there are competent people around. It's not as if even within the NPP party, none of them can do that. There are competent people around. But unless you have a very powerful political godfather, you will not get close enough, or you will not be in the position where you can effect change. So I'll give you an example. And I think most sports journalists would know the name, Kwame Ampofi. He's the last regional sports development officer I worked with in the Western region. He's the equivalent of the Director General of the NSA. So at the regional level, the NSA bosses, they are referred to as the RSDF, the Regional Sports Development Officers. He made his way through the district level, got to regional, and finally now he's at the NSA. if you want a purely technical person who can tell you where you can situate your pitches, right? Where you need to invest the most resources, he's the guy to go to. And I'm saying this because you need someone with that institutional knowledge, right? Who knows the industry inside out, and not just some politician who's been put there ahead of all of those technocrats. So if we're running a fair system, Kwame Ampofi perhaps should be the NSA board chair or the director general in a position where you can actually effect change. Rather, we've put incompetent people like Majid Bauer, incompetent people like Seth Paum. And you see, when I say the rot is from the presidency, Seth Paum was part of the previous dysfunctional NSA board, whose board chair got sacked, was removed from office, and then they replaced him. Before that post, he was the technical advisor to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. If you are looking through the line, the person who perhaps should have had some of these promotions is Kwame Ampofi, or someone who has had his career trajectory, right? So they have the body of work, they have the technical knowledge, and they have a CV that says, beyond these ideas that they have acquired over time, those ideas are marriable with the problems we have, because you have tested those ideas or those concepts within similar circumstances and they have yielded results. Because you don't have that, what you have is a situation where everyone does what they want. So, and I'll give you more examples. Because there is no central theme running sports or properly informed ideas running sports, you have a situation where every MP wants to build an astroturf in their constituency. It is not from their pockets. It is from GNPC, it is from Finance Ministry, it is from Sports Ministry. At the end of the day, it is taxpayer, Ghana Gas. At the end of the day, it is taxpayers' money. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia often says that they've built over 150 artificial pitches and all, which is not true anyway. But assuming without admitting what she's saying is true, if you cost it at $200,000 per facility, we're talking about in excess of $30 million that has been sunk into facilities that are not fit for purpose. Yes, you may say the Ajungano one and those ones are aesthetically pleasing, but they will not pass any proper test to host any competitive event anywhere. That's why the Black Stars can't even train or one. Right. So you spend $30 million, and yet the product of that work that Bawumia likes to brag about is not fit for purpose. And so the Premier League clubs who can pay for those facilities and rent them so that you get some money to maintain them cannot use them. In the end, they are useless white elephants there. If you look at the youth resource centers, and I'm glad that Veronica mentioned it. If you had proper policy convergence, what you would have had is that the resource centers and even the artificial pitches, you would have had the youth in sports module that they were running. The people that the YEA claims they have trained, they said they have trained 5,000 people. We don't know where those people are.
Wrap up, let me get to Mufta. He has a lot of filler for us, yes.
So because you don't have competent leadership, you are spending a lot of money. And I think that in the last 8 years, Ghana has perhaps invested more into sports than we've ever done in our history. If you combine the $250 million on African Games, excess of $30 million on artificial pitches, over $11 million on the youth resource centers. Last week, we were told a certain man has got a contract of over 80 million Ghana cedis to renovate all of our stadiums, and he didn't do all of that. Because you don't have competent leadership, you will even if we spend $1 billion, you will get to the situation that we found ourselves in because they are wasting the money.
Hold on a minute. Muftau, I know you have a lot of inside information. So why? Why is that? He's been superintending this ministry since 2021. And since 2021, CAF has consistently been reminding us that our sports facilities, our stadia, are not fit for purpose.
It's quite a complex issue.
That he's not been able to fix the problem? He's still there?
Oh, no, you asked about why he's still in the office. Yeah. It's quite a complex issue. So, for instance, the buck always stops with the boss, right? But one interesting thing, in fact, you'd recall about 3 years ago, we did a story that said that the NSA had a meeting at the Aqua Safari where the Director General told the board that went for a retreat that he had not rented out the Accra Sports Stadium for any program. They came back on Monday, went to the minister's office. On their way back to their office, then a bank had gone there to erect their stuff on the playing surface, right? For instance, what happened at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium was a similar one, where the minister got to know that they were renting out the facility for a church program, like 3 days into the church program, through the media. So the bigger question everyone would ask is, how come the minister oftentimes doesn't get to know that the facilities that you've been put in charge, someone is renting them out for something?
But Muftau, these are public facilities. If anybody goes there, you will know.
That's where I'm coming to.
Does the minister need why? I mean,
That's where I'm coming to.
let's even say they didn't tell. If the minister really wants to know whether the facilities are being rented, he would know.
That point may even be insignificant because it is the NSA who are manning these facilities.
Yeah.
When
That's
they
the point.
rent it out, they don't need to come and inform the minister.
That's the point.
Just do your job.
That's clearly the point. So they don't, when they rent out the facility, they don't go to the minister to tell them that we've rented facility ABC out for ABC. He gets to know later. And when he gets, for instance, the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, I was made to understand that immediately it came to his attention, he called them up for a meeting. They gave out a recovery plan. The recovery plan did not work. There was another meeting at Alisa Hotel. He called them up again. That was where he told them that, in fact, per what I was told, he told them that they were queried. In fact, he queried them, gave them to give a response. The president of the query was taking too long, so he fired the boss immediately. Because they were supposed to respond to the query on Wednesday. It's quite a complex issue, depending on where you sit, right, or how you process the stuff.
Exactly. How is that complex?
The complexity is that the minister gets to know at the point the harm has been done, right? And I'm sure, because the buck stops with him, the president, anyone at all would have wished that the president started with him. But I cannot tell what sort of conversation he went and had with the president, because he was the person the president called.
Has the minister always known these problems?
Winston, let's clarify something. The NSA Director General, the minister cannot sack him. The NSA board chair, those are President Akufo-Addo's appointees. So when they are misbehaving, the best the minister can do is to report the matter to the presidency. Their continued stay in office is because President Akufo-Addo has been excited by the work they do. When it comes to the sports minister, we will interrogate his body of work and say that, Mr. Minister, this is where you faulted, and so you deserve to be sacked. But on the specific case of assets management, it is in the remit of the NSA. The key officers there are appointees of the president of the land.
Yes, but the NSA is also an agency under the Ministry of Youth and Sports.
Yes.
So it will be important to know what the minister himself has done over the period.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
I mean, it's important to know because...
And that's where clearly I
No,
was...
hold on, Mufta. We cannot assume that the minister has not been aware all this while. We cannot assume that the minister who queries Director General does not know what's happening in that particular agency.
And that's why I'm saying that the buck always stops with him. But the challenge is that, as Atu mentioned, it is the NSA's duty to maintain these facilities and generate their revenue. Right. So, for instance, in 2024, they've been asked to generate 3.948 million Ghana cedis. So, what they will have to do to ensure that they generate their revenue, they will get it done. But the challenge is this: when you are renting out the facility and the minister doesn't know, and he gets to know later, the best he can do is to call you up. When there is something wrong, he cannot immediately fire the board chairman or the director general. It has to go up to the appointing authority.
Thank you. Let me ask a very simple question.
Yes.
So we rent out facilities. We said we had stadium pitch covers. We didn't have it.
No, we don't.
No, we
He
didn't.
lied.
So I mean, is it not obvious from the beginning that right from the get-go we set out to fail?
Yes, I listen, Winston, and that's why I think look, I agree with Achi that the whole conversation about the minister being aware now is neither here nor there. There's evidence of consistent undermining of the minister. That does not absolve the minister. It speaks to his own authority and competence. So if he appears to be anyone that is not respected and not regarded by appointees at the NSA, then he's clearly shown that he's not somebody that can stomp his authority and he needs to go. But having said that, I think the whole structure and the management style of our facilities is why we are failing consistent. And I agree with you, the whole structure is set up to fail. You give the NSA revenue targets to bring in from all these facilities. But you ask yourself, in the period in which you've given them these targets, what have you put into ensuring that these facilities are in the right shape to bring in that revenue?
Fen, can I ask a question?
Yes.
For our general education here. Money has been allocated for the maintenance of these infrastructure.
Money is allocated to the sports ministry.
Thank you. That
Over
is-
80% goes to pay salaries and goods and services.
That is the important question I want to
Yes.
bring in here. If the money is allocated to the sports ministry, then the sports ministry has a responsibility to ensure the money is spent on the right things,
Yes.
to ensure that anytime we are inspected, we meet the code, we pass, and we are able to use our infrastructure for the purpose they were provided.
Yep.
Anambwa.
Yes.
All right. So if the money comes to him
Yes.
and the stadia is not managed, is not maintained, please, who should we sack first?
Exactly. But the first point is that that money that they allocate to the sports ministry, first of all, is not even adequate. 80% of it goes into paying salaries, services on goods and services.
So it's even
So-
misapplied.
It's
No,
not
I-
even the
I-
money
I-
that
I-
goes
I-
into the maintenance of the facility. That's the point we are trying to make. So now they've asked them to generate income that will then go back into managing the facilities. Now the income is generated because we see what they do to the facilities in the name of generating revenue. So renting it out for concerts, for church services, all these things are all revenue generation measures. However, the question is, every time that revenue is generated, how much of it is reinvested into the stadium maintenance? These are the critical questions. And so at the Public Accounts Committee, it came up that you keep renting out the facility, let's say to musical concerts and what have you. But first and foremost, it's a sports facility. So you need to protect the fundamental elements of the sport, i.e. the pitch, for example. So if you're generating 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 every month, every 2 months, whether it's a December period, peak period, or whatever you want to call it, how much of it are you reinvesting into keeping the toilets clean?
Okay.
Into
Fento.
maintaining the pitch?
Thank you.
So all of these things haven't been done.
Fento, you know what we are going to do? I know that tomorrow is Friday, and I won't miss game plan. We'll continue the conversation there because
Yes.
time is not our friend today.
It is not. Give me 60 seconds.
I am counting. Go.
One thing that we need to do, I think that we need to have a dependable revenue stream purposely for the sports development in this country.
Okay.
And I think without that, we will keep going in circles. And my suggestion would be, first of all, they spoke about the competence, so I don't want to go there. We need competent people, technical people running the sports, not just appointed people. But second, we need a dependable revenue stream. And my suggestion would be the NDC and the MPP have both promised to scrap the betting tax when they come to power. I think that should not be done. Whoever is advising them, I think has advised them wrongly. I think what they really should be doing is to still take that tax, but repurpose it, maybe 50% of it or all of it, into setting up a sports fund,
your time
which
is
will
up.
then go into the development of sports purposely.
Thank you very much, Fentio Tahiru Fentio. Thank you, Victor Achutamaklo. Thank you, Muftar Nabila. And thank you also, Rosalind Amo, who's sports journalist and sub-editor of the Daily Graphic, and Veronica Komi, sports journalist, for making time to join us.